Hello there. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If the UK wants a good Brexit deal, then it must prepare fully for the no-deal scenario. Having advocated the need to prioritise the planning for exiting the EU without a deal, it's good to see the Sun editorial and the leader of the Tory MEPs saying exactly that. The Sun starts off today by saying that, despite all the courtesy that our negotiating team has shown the EU, all we get back in return is aggression. Pointing to threats to ground flights and do everything they can to break our banking system, trying to maintain control of our fishing, all the while setting up procedures to punish the UK at will during the transition phase, the Sun says, compare all this aggression with the courtesy David Davis has shown Brussels. The desire for a deep and special partnership is entirely one-sided. Michel Barnier's initial negotiating position is obviously unacceptable and a taste of the delaying tactics to come. Brussels will aim to prolong all talks until we take any deal in desperation to avoid leaving without one. And it goes on to say that the Remain side will do its best to stir up panic and treat anything that promotes Brexit gloom as the gospel truth. So whatever we do, it says, we must have a no-deal plan in place. There is a way out. Whatever strategy the Cabinet agrees today, we must get ready fully for a no-deal too. The Sun would much prefer a free trade agreement, but we must have a viable plan B. Personally, I would prefer that we treated a no-deal scenario as the plan A option, and then look at anything the EU came up with as plan B, as their plan will always entail the UK giving up too much. And writing in the Telegraph, the leader of the Conservative MEPs, Ashley Fox, says that to get a good deal out of the EU, we need to prepare seriously to leave without one. And while the EU is intent on setting up a one-sided, one-way system to punish the UK for future transgressions, it turns out that the biggest rule breaker is, in fact, Germany. Germany has been exposed as the top rule breaker in the European Union, even as it lectures other bloc members how to behave. It faces 74 infringement proceedings from Brussels for failing to adequately convert EU rules into German law, reports the Express. The violations cover health and safety, including air pollution, traffic noise, fire protection measures and water quality. The paper also points out that Germany has been in constant breach of EU fiscal rules since 2007 because of the huge trade surplus it runs, which is the biggest in the world. The Telegraph's Ambrose Evans-Pritchard wrote about this back in 2015, saying, vague assurances that the surplus would fall over time have once again come to nothing. The country is now the biggest single violator of the Eurozone stability rules. It would face punitive sanctions if EU treaty law was enforced. Now tell me which country should be the target of special rules for enforcement, and also tell me why we're still paying billions into a club that does not enforce its rules properly and evenly. On agriculture, I remember reading about all the EU seasonal workers we were so reliant on and assumed that the claims were based on data. But a recent report from the Office for National Statistics throws some interesting light on the subject. The report starts by saying, the agriculture industry relies on a combination of seasonal and permanent workers, many of whom come from EU countries. However, it is difficult to know the size of the agriculture labour market and the role of migrants within it because there are no official data sources designed to understand this particular issue. And it goes on to say how difficult it is to gather meaningful data given the nature of the jobs and the people who do them. By their nature, seasonal migrants are difficult to estimate. They arrive and leave and they move jobs. Point-in-time estimates will miss some workers as they have already left or may be yet to arrive. Estimates that take a longer approach will confuse positions with people. Then looking at what is probably the most crucial of questions, the report says, one fundamental question for policymaking is whether seasonal agricultural workers fly in, fly out for seasonal jobs, or are longer-term residents of the UK and move within the UK wherever the jobs are. This is not possible to answer from current data sources. So it seems we've been relying totally on hearsay on this entire subject. But worse, how do we know that these people are being paid and treated properly? Just asking. Now to the opposition. It has always left me bemused when the Labour Party talks about obeying the result of the in-out referendum, but then wittering on about staying in the single market and customs union after we have left. As anyone who has even a smattering of knowledge about the EU knows, if we are in the single market and customs union, or even just in a customs union where the ECJ holds the reins, then we have not left the EU at all. Staying in any sort of deal where the UK does not have full control over its own trade policy and customs arrangements means that the country does not have control over its own economic destiny. It's that simple. But now the Labour Party has been forced to admit that its rather confused approach could well prevent the UK from striking out on its own, with the Shadow Business Secretary Rebecca Long-Bailey said it was certainly a possibility that Labour's proposal to keep the UK in a customs union with the bloc could preclude the government from doing deals with other countries, reports The Telegraph. As far as I can see, the current Labour front bench would do two things if they ever got into power. One, deliver Brexit in name only, and two, in all probability bankrupt the nation. And the Prime Minister Theresa May has promised that the government will be robust in its negotiations with the EU. Plans to put in place swingeing powers for the EU to punish Britain without any sort of due process were leaked, which, as you can imagine, angered Brexiteers, and many Remainers into the bargain. So when veteran Tory Brexiteer Sir Bill Cash asked her at Prime Minister's questions if she will ensure that we repudiate any of those EU threats, her answer was to assure him that we will be robust in our arguments. But how robust is the real question? What do you think? Please leave a comment below. Thank you. Please do like and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel. And when subscribing, please do remember to press on the little bell next to the subscribe button. That way you'll get an alert every single time I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching.